Mr. / Ms. 2187 says, I was taught to play it safe in interviews and only recently started being more honest in myself. Decided if a company doesn't hire me for me, then I don't want to be there. Well, okay, I think you got the right idea, but I don't know if that's always going to work out for you. Listen, you've got to play to your audience. If you're talking to a recruiter, especially a corporate recruiter, like play it safe, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the safest candidate, the least risky candidate. They don't know how to respond to someone with a personality. Sometimes they see it for the advantage it is. Sometimes if they themselves don't have a personality, they see it as a negative. You're too free thinking, you'll be a bit more rowdy, a bit more of a troublemaker, a bit more of a rule breaker, a bit more of a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's how they interpret this kind of stuff sometimes, which is crap, of course, but you know. Victor, when I was being interviewed looking for my first job, I felt all they wanted was a bunch of vegetables. And you are absolutely correct, Victor. I would not be surprised if you were right on that one. I wasn't there. I don't know, but that is playing the odds. If you went to a job interview with a recruiter where you applied with an application in response to a job posting online, I would not be surprised. It's generally the hiring managers that look for someone with a personality. If anyone's doing that, it's the hiring managers, not the recruiters. The recruiters, they care about, see, they have no way of telling if you are good at your job. There's no way for them to have a conversation with you about your job and for them to make a determination if you actually know your stuff or not. They're incapable of doing that because they are not trained in the job that they're hiring for, right? They're only trained in HR, which is, you know, things like labor laws and things like that, right? And so they have to base their criteria on psychological elements, right? And the biggest one being how they like you, how likable you are. So that's where like developing a rapport is important and all this kind of stuff. That's really what you're being judged on because that's the only thing they know how to do. Everything else that they look at, basically, I mean, with one or two exceptions, they can see that from your resume. So they can determine that before you even come in for an interview. So for example, like a work gap or years of experience, obviously they look at that stuff, but they can make all those determinations from your resume and your job application. They don't need to bring you in person to evaluate you on those things. The only question mark there is if you perhaps falsified stuff on your resume. Sometimes they ask you questions that are designed to test the validity and the veracity of stuff you put on your resume. Okay, so they'll like say, you know, you say you have this accomplishment, tell me about it. And then they'll ask probing questions. And if you've made the whole thing up, then you wouldn't be able to answer. There's some standard techniques for how to do that, right? But a lot of times recruiters don't even ask those type of questions. They accept it at face value, or they just do a background check and they figure that's sufficient, or they just call references and figure that's sufficient because they're going to be evaluating you on the job anyway, right? And it's entirely based on whether they like you or not. So yeah, that's what I would say. That was in response to Victor. Paulina says we all have our own obsessions, I guess. Yeah, that's what makes people interesting. We are not all exactly the same, nor should we be. You know, people are into different stuff. Some people are into like racing bikes. Some people are into jumping out of airplanes with a parachute for fun. You know, other people just love movies. Other people love to surround themselves with 50 people they don't know and meet everyone. Other people like to go down to their basement and read a book and not see another living soul until they have to go back to work again. You know, I mean, we're different. And if you can harness the capabilities of all those different people and put them into a role where that's a considerable advantage, I mean, that's how you win, right? That's what confuses me about like a lot of corporate hiring practices. They just want generic, boring, middling people for everything that are the safest choice. And they expect to outmaneuver their competition and innovate new things no one's ever thought of and outperform everyone else with those people, right? And it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because they don't actually care about that stuff when they're hiring. What they are motivated to, when they're hiring, is we want a candidate that's going to be the easiest to manage. We want a total sheep, a total follower. We want someone who's going to do everything that they're told. They're going to follow the rules. They're not going to take initiative. And, they're not going to quit, because that would be embarrassing for the recruiter that recommended them and the hiring manager, right? So it's those things that really drive a lot of the hiring decisions. Now, knowing this, it can be to your advantage if you're trying to play this game, right? If you know what they're looking for and why, it helps you play up to it.